Hi, and welcome to Power of the Network. I'm your host, Tim Locker, Vice President of Broadband here at CBM. Coming to you from a different location today. We're here at the MATS, Mid-American Telecom Seminar and Showcase. It's a great trade show here in the Midwest, right in Kansas City, and we are recording today from our booth at the show. So a little different, but hopefully you guys enjoy this. You know, these trade shows are a great opportunity for us to see so many of our manufacturers in one place, visit with many of our customers. So it's a great opportunity for us to network and, see the important folks to us. So today we have Mr. Brennan O'Boyle, National Sales Manager from Preform Line Products, PLP. We're going to have a talk about all things broadband today. So join along. Thanks. Brendan, thank you so much for joining us today. Here on location at the MATS, for those of you that don't know what that stands for, it's Mid-American Telecom Seminar and Showcase. It's a big telecom show here in Kansas City. So we're shooting from our booth at the event today, so a little different. But thank you for joining us again.
Thanks for having me, Tim.
We've had this conversation before, but I just want to hit on it. PLP and CBM. Yeah. We've had a relationship for over 60 years. Mm-hmm. You and I have known each other a long time. And I just first I want to say thank you. And we really appreciate that partnership that we've had over the years. And we really appreciate how PLP, what they allow us as reps to do in terms of, really being able to take care of customers, really being able to make decisions and actually being an extension of the factory. So, we appreciate that. But talk a little bit, what do you think sets PLP apart in those terms? Because not every manufacturer, really handles their reps in the same way.
First of all, I love you too.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, and this is the thing, we really enjoy each other's companies, right?
Yes.
I think both companies are very similar in the way that they're family owned or they are employee owned. They're people owned, right? They're not corporate owned, right? They're not these faceless entities that are traded on the stock market and no one knows who's running it. And there's no personality to it. Both of our companies, I think, have very unique personalities, and I think that we allow our people to have that kind of identity. Yeah. And so when we deal with each other, we don't feel like we're talking to each other over a spreadsheet. It's not, we do a lot of emailing, we do a lot of number stuff. Yeah. That's part of the gig. But, at the end of the day, there's a heart and soul to what we do. Our relationships matter. Our interactions with our customers matter. Yeah. And I think there's a certain dignity that comes with, having partnerships. When you don't really have to have them, I think we both have a stake in this, that we want it to work. Even though you're a different company than I am, But we truly do feel like an extension of. Oh, absolutely. You are. We try to make that the case too. We don't, we kind of look at how other companies handle manufacturers rep firms, and from our point of view, we want you guys to be an extension of us. There's certain information at a certain point that we can't share just because we are a publicly traded company and it gets odd. But as we'll be in a lot of those. If it's a sales symposium or something like that, our executive leadership will say, hey, you can't trade on stock today because we're going to tell you something, right? Yeah. So we'll talk about the nitty gritty when we need to as well. But we want you guys to be informed. We want you to be successful because you're ultimately the entity that's helping the end customer. And if you're not doing what we need you to do, then the end customer is not going to be successful, period.
And talk a little bit about, you mentioned your people, and PLP's full of good people, and lots of longevity in the company. I think we have similar, we've got great people, been here a long time as well in our company. But, one thing that seems to set it apart for me is the customer service. Of all the manufacturers that we can, rely on, we know that PLP is going to do the right thing. Yeah. If there's an issue, if we miss something, even if it's I've seen a number of times where we take accountability, whether it's a failure in training or whatever it is, that PLP just goes over and above in terms of customer service.
Yeah. We We will follow up and we will work with customers that have installed stuff decades ago. I mean, literally, everyone's down the road. It's probably the second owner of the network.
Yeah.
But if they have a problem with one of our products and, it's malfunctioning or whatever, first we'll have the hard conversation about, is it a quality issue?
Yeah.
People will tend to accuse the product of being the problem, which, in a lot of ways
it happens, but very rarely.
Very rarely. But the thing about it is what they're really doing is they're asking for help, right? And so when someone's going to reach out and they're going to tell you something, whether if it's bad news or if it's constructive criticism, we'll call it. Really, what they're saying is, can you help me fix this problem? Am I still worthy of your support?
Yeah.
And PLP has always supported, as far as I can remember, anybody that has ever had an issue, PLP has followed up. We've gone from American to Samoa to Alaska to Venezuela. I mean, and obviously everywhere in the US, but we'll go anywhere in the world to support our products because the product, the quality, that's our brand. And that's more important than, being right about whether some issue was our fault or their fault. Ultimately, we want to fix it. We want to fix it together.
Yeah. Always do the right thing.
Yeah.
So, we're here at the trade show. Mm-hmm. Anything pop out to you yet? I know it's early in the show.
Yeah.
We haven't had a bunch of time but what sticks out to you?
Well, just the timing we're at in the market. It just seems like there's a lot more competition, which is good. That's good for the end user. They get choice. But I think it's becoming less and less clear who created product sets or who's bringing true quality to the table.
Yeah.
I think that there's certainly a big segment of this economy right now where it's people onshoring products, which no harm to a company that wants to try and come to the U.S. and stake their claim. Like good luck to you. But I think what seems to be different now is that people are coming to take advantage of federal funding that's here.
Sure.
The whole COVID wave of we got to have material. We're going to build these networks. It's going to happen. Really just brought everyone out of the woodwork. And so I think the industry's trying to cobble itself together and kind of re-identify itself and help the customers understand what it is that we're bringing to them from a value proposition standpoint.
Do you think quality still matters in today's market? More
than ever. I would say that, it really depends on the type of operator you're dealing with. It seems to be that if a company has a model where it's maybe private equity owned, and the intention is to buy a network or create a network, and then the plan from day one is to flip it within 3 to 5 years, quality seems to be less of a concern than first cost, speed to deployment, get the network there, get people the service, because the service is the essential part, right?
Bringing in the revenue.
Right. And so I think if you're looking at, the traditional tier 3 ILEC incumbent local exchange carrier model of this is our service area, we want to support it.
We're proud of it.
This is our community. Yeah. I got to see these guys at the bank. I got to see these guys at the restaurant. They're going to tell me if my network stinks.
Yeah.
I think you've got a different calculus there altogether. And I think that those networks have been built with quality from day one. Some would argue overbuilt in some regards. However, I think when fiber networks were starting to get put together, I think the thought process was maybe we'll get 20, 30 years out of them. But the FBA, for instance, just published a white paper that there's no known expiration date on fiber.
Yeah, we don't really know.
We don't know.
Yet.
So if you're making
some of the early stuff has seen the expiration date because it can't handle the wavelengths, that we're dealing with today. But
right.
The new stuff we don't even know what's possible yet.
No, you don't. And I mean, you're going to have material issues. People are going to enhance their products over time. We've been doing this, in the fiber optic closure game for 30 years. So, I mean, we've learned lessons. There's no doubt about it. There's nothing wrong with that in regards to things that you could do better or design differently to make it last longer or be better. And we have better, the sciences are a lot better today than they were back then as well. All the design programs, I mean, everything soup to nuts is better today. So the good news is I think that these fiber networks are going to last a long time. But in regards to the quality of the network, it's a crapshoot. Depending on who you're dealing with and what their motives are.
I've always been, quality first.
Yeah.
You get what you pay for.
Sure.
But I know, there's financial strains on the market, and people have to do what they have to do. But
if I owned a network and I had to flip it and I had to make a profit, I may make similar decisions because
I probably would make the wrong decisions.
Well,
I would overspend every
Well, there
time.
you go. Well, but you know the value of that. You know the value of the quality, right? And when you've seen it and when you've had to troubleshoot as much as you have and CBM has and PLP has, when you see the nightmares and you pick up closures and they're leaking because someone didn't plug a hole, or when you're testing a fiber and it's wrapped around something too tight and you're wondering why would you make this decision? It's simple stuff like that, but you've seen the nightmares, so
And you mentioned the tier 3 companies, the independents, and the service, and it made me think. My father-in-law, he lives in they have a couple places, but so he goes back and forth from the farm to the townhouse or whatever. But I got a call from him just last week. So anything revolving fiber optics is my fault. So his drop was cut last week. And
what did you do?
And it was like, typical. They took a shortcut. It was barely under the sod, right? So it got cut. And he's like, I thought your fiber was supposed to last forever. It didn't even make it a year. What? Like, I thought you sold better stuff than this.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
no expiration date in my eye.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You want me to come put another drop in?
I'm not the guy for that.
Yeah, but I mean, it's all my fault.
So, well, what's funny about that is you don't, as a consumer of the service, I've learned things as well. So like we obviously produce and engineer and sell solutions and things like that. But as a consumer and the residential side of it, I've learned some hard lessons. Where I'm at, I realized after the fact that, the gas and water weren't located when it was installed. Okay.
Yeah.
And you're like, and I'm in the business, and it did not dawn on me until probably way too late that was the case. But there's going to be these little issues. I have cable that's up on the dirt, my back easement, feeding a pedestal. I mean, and it's like, so as a consumer, you're like, what is this stuff?
Yeah.
But this is why it is important to build quality networks, because if you don't build it, put your drops deep enough, right? You don't locate those utilities or whatever, you're going to have issues. You're going to be causing long-term problems.
Yeah. So. Let's change gears a little bit. Let's talk about, the BEAD funding. That seems to be the buzz in the industry.
Sure.
I think we're still kind of trying to see what every state's going to do and when the money's going to, actually hit the streets and who's going to get the money and so on.
Yeah.
What are your overall thoughts on that? And then kind of in the weeds a little bit, people are worried about product shortages, those kinds of things.
Right.
I know Preform has invested heavily in the factories. So talk a little bit about what you've done to make sure this next round we're in a better position.
Yeah, sure. So on the BEAD stuff, I mean, best guidance that I think I've been given and I continue to give to people that are, in our circles is that Louisiana is going to be the litmus test. So everyone's getting their hackles up over wanting to get going, and us too. We're so excited to get out there, support, train, all that stuff. But we're not going to do one thing until we see Louisiana start to allocate funds.
Yeah.
So like up until then, it's a whole bunch of posturing. It's a whole bunch of rechecking in. I think as of the taping of this, every entity that could go for money, or every state rather, that could be approved for volume 1, volume 2, challenge process and all that, I think everyone's gotten through almost all those gates, right? So so as far as the paperwork, the known kind of barriers for starting, I think those are basically done. I think people are going to have to, for those that haven't gotten through challenge processes, they'll have to do that. And then there's going to be the sub-grantee auctions.
Explain the challenge process a little bit.
Yeah, so I mean, ultimately, there's broadband maps, right? And what the challenge process is designed to do is allow people to say, I either think there's service there that's good enough, that meets the minimum threshold, or there's service that's not good enough. Because there might be someone that's saying, I have service here, it's good enough, I don't want you to federally fund us building here.
Gotcha.
Right? But
so it's challenging the maps.
Challenging the maps.
Go out and say, here's what we think's out there, and then companies come back saying, no, this is good. No,
Correct.
this is worse than you
Correct.
think, et cetera.
And then when they get through that window and they leave periods for comments, that's great. They get through it. And then we know what different areas we can start to bid out. What areas can be granted for construction.
So on the applying for the funds, where does that fit in the process? Did that have to be done before all this started, or do companies still have time to apply?
Yeah, it goes all the way back to putting in a letter of intent.
Okay.
To bid, and now I don't know the exact date, because since COVID, I think we're all in a tailspin.
Yeah.
But I want to say that we're over a year into this process where states ultimately are the ones that are the recipients of the money. That's what's odd about this whole deal.
Yeah.
Is the states are the ones that get the money, and then there are sub-recipients that get money from the states. Now, we all are familiar with how the state part of it's going to work.
Yeah.
All 50 states and I think an additional 6 territories said, we want the money. Now we're at a point where, money hasn't been allocated, but Louisiana has gone through their sub-recipient, process where we don't know how it's being awarded yet. And that's why I'm saying we're all waiting to see how that goes.
So anybody that wanted to apply has applied.
Well,
it's just not been awarded.
The interesting thing is that, and I think we're all figuring this out together, but in Louisiana, they had a kind of a pre-qualification process.
Yeah.
Where if you wanted to go for funds in the state of Louisiana, they encouraged you to pre-qualify. Okay. And I think Montana is the second state that encourages people to pre-qualify for bidding status, right?
Okay.
And so they published that pre-qualification list of entities that would be going for that. The hard thing for us, kind of transitioning to how are we supporting this thing, the tough thing for a manufacturer is we know that the demand is going to be there.
Yeah.
Right? For all intents and purposes, if the money gets let, which everyone believes that it will, regardless of a change of administration, we believe that the money will be let. We believe that most of the money will be spent, although there's some disagreement over that because people are saying that there's too much money that certain states got and they're going to have this leftover fund that they may do stuff with. We'll see how that goes, but there's certainly going to be states that probably don't have enough money, so they're going to have to stretch that budget and they're going to have to use fixed wireless and things like that rather than do fiber. But for us, we're looking at it saying if we had better clarity over the timelines, we could make sure that we had the people in place, personnel at the plant, meaning, right? If operators were given the ability to forecast at all, every manufacturer that's at this trade show we're at right now would be ramping up, preparing for that.
Yeah.
But until that happens, until we see money hit the table, no one here is going to start to build really what's going to be required over the next year, 2 years to 5 years.
Well, and it's interesting. I've heard some rumblings too. It's kind of getting a little political. Obviously, we're getting close to an election, but even Joe Rogan was talking about it on his podcast. One of his guests talking about how, here's this huge infrastructure bill, all this money. It's been 2 years. None of it's got spent,
Yep.
And it's interesting hearing that perspective from somebody that doesn't know anything about the industry.
Right.
And I'm yelling at the radio, but it's like, okay, you have a point.
You have turned into your father, by the way.
So it's just interesting that I'm seeing it from that level now, not just within the industry, and people are talking about it. So
yeah, I have a bit of a unique ability to see things from a national perspective. I'm able to go to a lot of industry events where there's state broadband office people talking there, or there's some policymaker of some sort who is giving their kind of feedback on it. It's easy to politicize this because it's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
It's a pile of cash. And we're all paying for it.
Yep.
Right? Yep. And for us, we want this to go because it will be good for our industry and good for our careers. And it will be good for people that are coming into our industry, and empowering people and being able to promote people. And it's a great industry. There's great jobs here. But when you look at it, in aggregate, it's a lot of money that's being spent, and no one ever trusts that the money's going to be implemented correctly. I'll say that, there's been hurdles and challenges and issues, and there's stuff that we don't even have to deal with, right? I can only imagine from the operator's perspective. I will say from a material vendor's perspective, which is my angle in this industry, I think that the NTIA is doing the best job that they can to try and communicate, to try and qualify stuff, to try and deploy the largest amount of fiber infrastructure that's been deployed in the past 30 years of fiber deployment. I think, all things considered, I think they're doing a good job. Yeah. There's things that I would nitpick about.
The task at hand is
it's ludicrous,
overwhelming.
It's insane.
You know?
Yeah,
every home in America has high-speed broadband. It's a great goal, but it's insane amounts of
It's
work.
insane. And the fact is, the thing is, they put a time constraint on it. And there's been analysis done from, companies that specialize in this that are saying, like, just imagine the permit overloading that's going to take place. Yeah. So people are saying, okay, 25 money is going to come. 26 money will probably be most available.
Yeah.
However, once people start to get money, that's when they're going to permit. No one's going to start that permit process prior to that.
Because there's costs involved.
There's costs involved.
Yeah.
And so any ecological permit of any sort is going to take about a year to get.
Yeah.
So you do the math, right?
Numbers are hard.
So those folks that maybe can wait or have ways to expedite that process, like Tribal's got an expedite capability from the federal government, and I think that the NTIA has gone on record saying, like, they're trying to work with other governmental institutions to resolve this problem because they see it being there. But with that being the case, we're not going to deploy this thing in 4 years. There's absolutely no way. I don't think anyone thinks that that's going to happen, but it's going to be crazy watching it roll out. That's for sure.
Well, if it takes 10, then that gets us closer to when it's time for our legacy to
you'll be retiring any day now with your podcast money. So
well, I kind of am kind of a big deal. I've heard, but I don't know.
You got business cards now, so you're the man.
I don't know if you knew this, but I'm from a small town in Iowa, and we don't really have. It's interesting, like clothing manufacturers don't seem to be able to keep up until like our children are 12.
Yeah.
So they just run around naked until they're like 12.
That's remarkable, Tim. Yeah. I mean, I knew they were barefoot, but I didn't know they would be fully unclothed.
Yeah, it's the darndest thing.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Thing. So I don't know if you're aware of that, but. Big shout out to Tillin this week. Things I learned last night. If you haven't looked that podcast up, our producers, great show. You can hear some incredible cackles. If you like to hear a guy cackle, like tune in.
Right.
It'll knock your socks off.
It doesn't make you insecure at all while you're doing it, which is cool.
No, it's just great. You get addicted to it. It's
That's true.
Most annoying thing ever, but like somehow you can't get enough.
As a kid who's been laughed at from birth, are you used to it by now? Or?
Oh, I think I was really put on this earth to, take beatings, be made fun of, really kind of the center of all jokes and attention. But I feel like I'm helping others.
Yeah.
So
by being their punching bag.
Yeah. Get it out. It's okay.
You've really come into your own. I didn't know if you were going to understand your place.
It's taken me so many years.
Here you go.
It's taken me so long.
Okay.
So I really wish Marla was here to hear some of this. What makes CBM different? First and foremost, I believe it's our ESOP. Employee owners make different decisions. They value our customers, they value our manufacturers, and we're going to do what's right for each of them. So they behave in a different manner. We represent different lines in commercial industrial market, utility market, and also the communication market. These markets are overlapping more and more every day, and the ESOP and the way we're structured actually allows us to be more flexible and cover those markets and put our expertise where they need to be. So if you're looking for a manufacturer's rep with high-quality sales staff, good relationships, look no further than CBM. You can find us right here at cbmrep.com. We recently had a couple of catastrophic storms. 2 hurricanes come through and hit the southeast. The recovery efforts are crazy. What's going on? We've got power and utility companies that swarm down there to help out, and I think it's incredible what they do. But talk a little bit about what PLP does.
Sure.
In terms of storm recovery.
Yeah, so what a lot of people, especially at the MATSS, Mid-America Telecom Showcase and Seminar show we're at right now, don't realize about PLP, because we always bring our fiber optic stuff, is that actually the birth of PLP in 1947 was a hardware manufacturer in the power utility industry.
Yeah.
It is definitely our biggest kind of market segment.
Yep.
So whenever there are these catastrophic storms like we had Helene and Milton, Helene, I think by all accounts was much worse, had a much larger devastating effect, but obviously people were negatively impacted in both. PLP really commits to the industry, one, to be an American manufacturer.
Yep.
Okay. It's not to say that everything that we sell is made in the United States, but we really do try to position ourselves to manufacture and to hold inventory domestically to support events like this, right? The power grid is critical infrastructure. It's ironic that fiber is so important to everybody, but it's not yet critical infrastructure from that standpoint.
Yeah.
So when there's a big storm, the utility lines get put up first. We all need power, right? Yep. And so PLP, works with our vendor partners and our investor-owned utilities and contractors and all that to make sure that they know that we have material standing by for them. Obviously, it's not an unlimited well of material, but I'm really happy to say that through this last storm event, through Helene, and it could be the timing of all that stuff, but our storm inventories were sustained pretty well. So meaning we didn't run out of inventory, by the third day. We were really able to get a lot of material out for people and help them get the lights back on. And we did have broadband providers reaching out saying, hey, I want to get my fiber network back up.
Yeah.
These people need this connectivity. They don't have an alternative here that's worthwhile. Like we can give them temporary wireless service.
Healthcare and emergency services and all those other things.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Broadband is obviously becoming a bigger deal in this.
I have a guy that lives, he's got a house in North Carolina. He's got a house in Florida. Actually, Charleston, South Carolina, in Florida. And, this guy, he left the Carolinas to go to Florida only in time for Milton to come through and knock his power out there. So this guy's trying to get on a Teams call.
Yeah.
Troy, shout out, trying to get on Teams calls. He can't even chill his food there. But, we're trying to communicate with him. And to his credit, he's like, hey, I want to get on this meeting and I need to connect with these people. And we're like, Troy, worry about your family, And which obviously everyone was squared away, He hunkered down with his mom through Milton. But yeah, it's just wild to see, from a very personal standpoint. We saw some really beautiful things unfold in that. Like, you never want a catastrophe like that. But what I love about this industry and what I love about, just utility industries is we really do come together. I mean, I don't think there's anybody that doesn't want to help in some form or fashion. I talked to people that were out there giving out water, donating time, donating, whatever they could to try and help get that restoration effort going, expediting material, doing whatever we got to do. So we really do come together. It's unfortunate,
but sometimes it does take a catastrophic event to really bring people together. But
absolutely.
You're right. There's a lot of good that comes out of it.
Yep.
Was the North Carolina plant affected at all?
No, fortunately it was not in any real serious regard.
Okay.
No, I mean, we've had instances where our plants have been impacted in the past, but we definitely dodged the bullet on this one. So
that's good. Yeah. Talk a little bit about, PLP invested a bunch of money into the plants, added on, et cetera. So talk about what we've done there in terms and what it's going to bring to our customers in terms of, being able to handle the next round of, high volume.
Yeah.
What we're looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I can't promise that we started with our investments with, COVID in mind per se.
Yeah.
But it happened to play nicely on a story arc. And then we did make investments throughout that process. But so for instance, I think it was 2022, we announced an investment in a company in the Czech Republic called Holplast. And Holplast is an injection molding company that is actually located right next to our subsidiary in the Czech Republic, the company referred to as Mikos that we bought. Now it's PLP Czech Republic. So we invested in that company, and the idea was we were going to diversify our supply chain by investing globally, right? And bringing this Czech firm in to support our Rogers, Arkansas injection molding operation. And then we have Albemarle, North Carolina that does primarily hardware. But obviously, the market demand was so high and the backlog was getting so long that our company decided that we had to push a button and acquire another entity to support the market. And so we ended up investing in a company called Pilot Plastics in Peninsula, Ohio. We brought Pilot on board, I think also in 22. And I think it became fully integrated within our systems in 23. But we made that investment. From a product standpoint, we have different fiber optic closures. And as you know, and as people that have been using our line forever know, we've had many different organizers inside of those. But we kind of came to market with a new design for an organizer that was primarily made of an engineered resin or plastic. We hesitate to say plastic because people think Barbie dolls.
You get it.
It's not that. It's an engineered resin. It's stern stuff. But the reason why we re-engineered the internal organizer to that resin was because we can make a lot more of them. We redid how much hardware is included, how many fasteners are there, so we can crank out closures in a much higher volume, with these new organizers. And we know people like the original ones and they don't want to make that transition. But the thing is that the more people that do use this product, the new organizer that has the plastic organizer, the more we're going to be able to make. So we invested in that product design. We've invested in tools that can allow us to produce multiple parts, out of one shot. That process is still ongoing. So I think all told, we reported to the NTIA that we invested over $40 million. I just looked at our public statements the other day to kind of prep for this. I think the number is probably closer to 60. Wow. If you want to look at all investments that we've made, now you could start to nitpick and say, well, if something's made in the Czech Republic, it's not BABA compliant, which isn't entirely, it wouldn't be US made. You could still maybe utilize that product and not claim it. But ultimately, there's people that are going for BEAD money. There's people that are not. So when you would look at the market holistically on what we need to support, we've probably invested close to $60 million.
That's awesome. And you mentioned, the BABA compliance. Obviously, there's a few things that may or may not be compliant, but the largest bulk of everything is, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So I will say this, and I haven't checked in probably in the last couple weeks, but we modeled that by the end of the year, we would easily be over 90% compliant for the products that we're going to sell here for BEAD projects. Some of the issues are hardware related. So like we use US steel, we form US steel for our dead ends. So we have a BABA compliant form wire dead end. And that's pretty rarefied air, quite frankly. But when you start to look at some of the other products within the line, if there's a casting that's made, it's so hard to get, casted parts done here. Smelting operations in the United States are not easy to find, because of, government policy and regulation and all that stuff. So some of that stuff starts to get a little bit challenged, but all of our fiber optic connectivity products are BABA compliant. They're all US made. So
we got some hecklers.
We got well,
you'll have that. Fans.
We wanted to do this here. I don't know why.
Shame
but
on
we
us.
wanted to do this here. But so as far as our connectivity line, that's 100% compliant from my point of view. And we're actually moving accessories here now as well to assist with that. So we bought more equipment to mold silicone grommets and little accessories and we have really lined out this line to be fully US made.
Yeah, that's awesome. So a couple of the challenges facing us as we keep going into this venture, labor, training.
Sure.
How do we get ahead of that?
Well, it's going to take people that are willing to either start a program or support a program. So it's interesting. So PLP, we like to work with other associations in the industry. So my boss, Dan Levac, works a lot with the PCCA. That's the Power and Communication Contractors Association. Several members of that have taken on the task of developing a school really more for the construction side of the business. They offer programs that I think are kind of spread across many job categories, but ultimately they're looking for line construction support because that's in high demand. There's a shortage of that. Everyone agrees. I hear all the time, for every one fiber splicing job, there's like 10 line construction jobs, right? So those guys are starting schools, funding schools, putting their own money into it, and kind of building those programs. And they're supporting the educational institutions that are doing that. On the fiber side of it, I've had the honor of working with the Fiber Broadband Association. They started the Optic Path program a couple years ago now. I helped, kind of build curriculum for my knowledge set, which is one piece of a much greater puzzle. But the folks at the FBA have really put together a great program, great content. It's like about 120 hours, I think, all told of content. Some people have, used the content for shorter programs and things like that. But generally, they're offering enough material that you could really educate someone on starting a career in broadband. It's not, I think a lot of people have gone through certain programs that are only a few days long. And a few day long program, you can learn a little bit.
An idea.
You get your feet wet a little bit, and then you get thrown out there. But there's not one employer, I don't think, that would take someone that went through a program like that and say, because you did that, I have to have you.
And put them on a directional drill.
Come on, right. Or even a fusion splicer, right?
Yeah.
Would you let a guy that went through a 3-day class open up a fiber cable? Are you out of your mind?
Yeah, there's so much of it that's just on the job training too. So.
Well, and that's always going to be important. But I think the FBA has really tried to develop a good baseline where, and our specific part of it was to help with the hands-on, closure skills. So the open fiber skills, if you will, is really what this course promotes.
That's where the skill is. Getting a machine to splice them together is one thing, but putting the closure together, prepping it properly, making it not a tangled mess, make it look
open
good.
Cables without cutting your thumbs off, and all that. But also, there's still things that we need to improve and do, add more bonding and grounding information. There's just never enough of that. Yeah. I feel like in the market.
You sound like Larry White right
now. It all came around, right?
Yeah.
So Larry was the first guy that I worked with at PLP. And he definitely hammered that into me over that first 3 months. But boy, he was right. Bonding and grounding is such an important part of what we do in the network. But there are people today that do not bond aerial network because they don't know why they have to. And they're literally going to cause people to die. That's how important it is. You don't want to make it too dramatic, but that's really what's at stake here. It can happen, definitely. So, but going back to the training part of it, ultimately developing that program, getting multiple schools to adopt it as the curriculum has been just like a great joy to me to see that succeed. So many people are putting so much hard work into that to make it succeed. And it's just great to see that getting used. It's the curriculum that stands behind the Virginia, Maryland, and Delaware, a kind of electric cooperative association. It's being used by a company called LAC, which these guys are taking veterans out of the military, training them for over a month with this fiber curriculum, and then they're actually finding jobs for them. They are homing them with employers.
Oh, that's awesome.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah.
So there's already been, I don't know the exact number, but there's been hundreds of veterans that have been employed going through LAC through the Optic Path program. So I'm just honored.
Great.
It's an amazing
thing. Good, thanks to PLP for that support, but also to you. That's what it's going to take to.
And there's so many people beyond PLP, but I thank you for that.
Yeah,
we love it. We'll support it. It's a great endeavor. So,
what's maybe one assumption that people make about your job that you disagree with?
I think they think in sales we do more messing around.
It's a party every day.
It's a party every day, man. Yeah. Oh, you get to travel.
Oh,
you
it's so
get to
fun.
stay in hotels.
Yeah. Oh, big dinners.
Oh my God. Oh, it's so hard. You have to eat out in restaurants every night.
Yeah.
It's I will say it's really unclear to, certain people what we do.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, in how we support this. It's not a matter of, it's really about being prepared for people when they need the support is probably the best way I would put what we actually do. And we do that in so many ways. But by the time we're interfacing and, kind of trying to break bread with people and trying to understand their needs and all that.
Yeah.
We've already done a ton of back end work, and then, gathering that information and kind of repackaging it in a way that our manufacturing facilities know what they have to make, when they have to make it, what they have to be prepared for. Our engineering teams know what to design, why they need to do it. I mean, we're really the conduit for that. And so
I know you're a detail guy.
Yeah.
This is a relationship industry.
Right.
Still is.
Right.
Talk about how important it is to just ask the right questions, to get the right information. How often do you have to send an email back or call somebody back and what about this?
You're going to have to call this podcast trigger warning, because this right here is a gigantic issue.
It's what it's all about.
I would just ask anybody that watches this, how many worthless emails have you seen go back and forth that could have been entirely eliminated by being clear on the front end and being clear with the response?
To be unclear is to be unkind.
Especially if you're on CC.
Yes.
If you're a third party and you're getting inundated with these things and you're looking at them like, if they just said this or they just did this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's really a microcosm of a greater issue. Our job is to really kind of understand a customer's needs before they do.
Yeah.
Because you want
guide them and coach them to what
other value would we have?
Yeah.
Because with AI coming, realistically, our computer is going to take our jobs. In some regards, computer interfaces will be important, but realistically, they're always going to need a person, I think, to get out there and show them how to work with something, show them how to do something. I think as far as communication being detail-oriented, it's so important because the little details matter, and that's really what causes issues in the network.
Well, and frankly, too, when you're asking a customer those specific things, paying attention to those details, they feel like it matters.
Yeah.
That's what helps build that relationship.
100%.
Too. If you're not paying attention, you're in, you're out, and then, oh, hey, by the way, I forgot this. They're not feeling a value from you. So it plays in both. It gets you what you need, and it also, builds that relationship.
Right.
Which is critical.
Yeah, the term order taker gets thrown around a lot in our industry about people that you're there to get the order, you don't really care about the needs. And it's good to have people that take orders and keep that supply moving. Like those people are important too. But when it really comes down to it, for broadband operators, they really need partners. They need people to understand what they need before they need it. They need us to bail them out of the fire if they hit it. If they need material, where can I get it? How can I get it? If they're having a field issue, how do I fix it? Can you help me? And if people are trading information and they're leaving out critical details, like, hey, maybe that splice tray is too big for that closure, or maybe that closure is too big for that handhole, or maybe that, whatever it is, that those issues start to compound.
Let's talk about leadership for a second. You mentioned Dan Levac earlier. Big shout out to Dan. Dan was our very first guest on the podcast.
Sure was, yeah. He's going to be very upset with my lack of merchandising in this podcast, I will say.
Well,
we're in a little different circumstance here.
We're in a different set of circumstances. And frankly, who could do it better than Dan?
There's nobody in this industry, bar none.
But so you've been put into his old role. Mm-hmm. What have you done differently to kind of put your own twist on it? Or what have you done differently than Dan? And talk just a little bit about your leadership style.
Yeah, I mean, I think, so Dan laid a terrific foundation for me to come in and support PLP, and kind of help PLP succeed. From my point of view, he had a different path than I did because he started in the field. He started with Bell Canada. Knuckle dragger, right? So, I mean, you give that guy a material problem or a technical issue, he's going to solve it like that. Yeah. I mean, the guy's, he's wicked smart that way. And he's also has really strong social skills, as everybody knows, right? Probably some of the best.
Yeah.
So it's like when you get that combination, what just like a triple, quadruple threat he is. So it's kind of like, well, what does he do versus what do I do? And if he can do all these things right, what can I bring to the table? I think my story arc started in sales. It started as a manufacturer's rep.
Yep.
And I think because I did not start in the field and I didn't have the ability to kind of work hands-on with products that way to learn what I needed to know, it was more important than ever that I did listen to learn, right? Because I didn't get to do to make mistakes. Eventually, I got an opportunity to do and make mistakes as I've been here, and I've kind of developed my career over almost 20 years. So, I mean, I've been able to learn, though, from great people like Dan, yourself, a lot of people. And that's the great thing about this industry is that it will help educate you as you're along for the ride. So what I bring to the table now is I had to learn. And so I find that my value is to help other people understand things better.
Yeah.
I try to explain things, and yeah, maybe I am too detail-oriented. I can be accused for going on and on, no doubt about it.
I've never said that.
No, right,
Never
right.
said that.
It's all right. I'm also a mind reader. But the thing is that it is the details that are left out. It's the information that's left out.
Yeah.
I think is the shortfall between what we're doing and what we could be doing to succeed. I really believe that.
How hard is it for you to stand back and let your people fail and not jump in, bail them out?
It's so
do
hard
it for them. You know,
It's so hard.
that is and
Well,
I think that's something we all.
Yeah, you know
tangle
what?
with.
A lot of it is like if I'm doing something and then I need to open up my schedule or I need to give someone an opportunity to succeed, because that's part of it as well. Like, don't hog the airspace, right?
Yeah.
So, giving someone breathing room to succeed is very hard because we all get very accustomed to what we've done, and we never want to think we're doing a bad job at it. We want to think like, oh, it's working great. Yeah. So we tend to not think this could work better. We're always like, what could go wrong? But I will say that as I've relinquished things or I've entrusted people with doing things, you know, some can take to it right away depending on what the task is. Some it takes a little bit longer. But I will say it's really rewarding when you know that someone didn't necessarily have a skill set or know that someone didn't have an insight, but then they come back and they explain it to you and you're like, oh, wow, why didn't I do this like 2 years ago?
Yeah.
You know, and really it's like give people the ability to learn, to make mistakes. You know, working here is really interesting because I work around a lot of great technical people. I mean, most of the people I work with are mechanical engineers or, you know, have worked at big operators and have done it and seen it and all that. I can barely like attempt to put something together before someone grabs it out of my hand and says, let me just finish that for you. Let me show you how to do that.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to learn in that. And so, you know, we were talking about like what I do differently or my perspective. My perspective is the guy that needs to be educated. Like, let's just call it what it is.
Yeah.
But because of that, I have a full understanding and appreciation of how we need to train our customers and how they need to learn. And we've had different things that have come along and you know, digital tools or video tools or email or whatever it is that we can actually paint a better picture through PowerPoint and through all these like glorious things, you know. And so I try to bring that type of stuff to the table. But yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I hear some chatter. I think we're about to get some customers pumping into the trade show here.
Great
so
news.
I think we'll get this wrapped up.
Yeah.
But, you know, thank you again for joining us. As always, it's just been a great relationship for so many years, and we truly do value that. So thank you.
Feelings mutual, Timmy. Thank you. Yep. Take care.
Just want to say thanks again to Brennan for joining us. It's great having him on the show. Hopefully you enjoyed our conversation. Remember, if you need a representation for a product or service from a high-quality sales group, look no further than CBM at cbmrep.com. And until next time, thanks for joining us on Power the Network.